You start thinking about a clinical trial. Think about a medical consultant, a QA consultant, biostatistics and clinical operations, because they will help you evaluating your clinical trial design and improving it in a good way.
What are those skills or things you believe a clinical operations leader should pick up right now as part of their experience to be able to succeed as a clinical operations leader?
Communication, conflict management, because this is the underlying soft skill set you need to manage a project.
Welcome to Clinically Unscripted. As you all know, we dig into what happens behind the scenes in clinical trials. And today I'm excited to be joined by Jessica Cordes, leader in clinical operations, who is well respected both in Germany and worldwide. I like to say that. Thank you very much for joining me today, Jessica.
Thank you for having me.
Please, for people that may not know Jessica, please tell them, who is Jessica Cordes?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, so actually I'm a clinical operations expert. I started at the service provider side with the central lab, and then I was interested to see what's going on at the client side. So we were in a hurry to get everything prepared and then got a handbrake. And I was always wondering, what's that about? It's called ethic, etc. So that was driving my career path, the interest in learning more about clinical trials. So that's why I moved to big pharma, to GSK for a while as a country study manager. But still, there was a headquarter driving things, and I recognize I'm not involved in everything, and I want to learn more. That's why I moved to Morphosis as an international trial manager, leading from the headquarter perspective in a full outsourcing model, phase 1 clinical trials. And this is where my oncology focus started and the early clinical trial focus started. And it was
the challenges that we talk
about.
about.
Oh, yeah. Well, you always have challenges, but yeah, of course. Yeah, and then I was still interested in broadening my perspective in clinical trials. So I moved to Medigene, where I was leading a cell therapy clinical trial and developed into the head of clinical operations. So this is where the true leadership started. Before I had line management responsibilities, but I was not department head. Yeah, and since then I was leading the team. After a while, moving to emetics, also with a focus in oncology, cell and gene therapies, but also B-specific antibodies. In those days, focusing on early clinical trials still. And I was heading the clinical operations department there with a team in America and in Germany, with clinical trials in Europe and US. Yeah, this is my career path. I bring roughly 18 years working experience in clinical trials on the plate now.
Look, this is quite amazing. And the reason why I'm saying this is because there are so many people that are going to watch this episode. You've touched on different therapeutic areas that is probably their first time of managing such a trial. So I hope to have a conversation that can touch on different challenges they should expect.
I've seen a few.
So that being said, maybe we should jump into the first question. Why do clinical trials fail? From your perspective.
A tough cookie. Honestly, based on my experience, and I'm always bringing the context of small sponsor organizations. This is really where I've worked the last decade. Oh, I'm getting old. I think sponsor planning is one of the main issues, and sponsor mindset.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Obviously. I'm still hearing statements like, oh, we are a small biotech, we don't need GCP. I haven't seen the phrase in the guideline, if you are a small biotech company, stop reading, it's not applicable. That's not true, right? We all know. So having a proper quality mindset leads to a fact that you do things right from the beginning. And that leads to the fact that you see less issues in the end, because issues always mean delays and more costs. If you have a proper planning up front, then you can mitigate those risks from day one, and you can keep the budget as planned, right? you keep the protocol as planned because you had an in-depth planning phase. I think this is the main issue I still see with my clients when consulting them, and this is really different in the projects I'm taking over. Obviously, I can help them. Like I had a client who came to me, Jessica, what do I need to do? Now we need to do the first clinical trial ever. We have no clue. Tell us what is required, right? So we started with writing concepts, overall clinical trial design, selecting the CRO. But I'm also working with clients who had an inspection or have conducted a mock inspection and have a huge kappa plan, right? And then they bring me in asking me, help us to get
Ready
the
for
processes right, to have process improvements, to be inspection ready, right? Once the true inspector is coming. So I see it from different angles in the interface of QA, but also in the interface clinical operations and leadership. And seeing how the guidelines are developing, we need more and more to be considered. And this is leading to a lot of processes, right? From the C level, I'm still hearing we don't need so many processes. We have the GMP process right. This is only the clinical trial needs to be done. And they obviously don't understand that a new world is to be managed with a lot of other regulations.
I want to stay on that a little bit more. Maybe this is a controversial question. Who is to be blamed, the clinical scientists or the clinical operations, when it comes to putting these processes or adopting these processes early?
Yeah.
Who should be responsible for that? Who should be pushing for that? And who is not doing it?
For me, a clinical trial is a team effort. And I don't like finger pointing anyway. I think that's not the right mindset to work in a cohesive team, right? Truly speaking, I believe that everybody is contributing to the procedures. And I see still a lot of companies working in silos. And this is one of the main issues why the planning was not appropriately. Because A has not considered B, right? Probably I'm pretty empathic. I believe that I need to understand my colleagues in the other departments to create robust processes because they need to fit, and especially the handover touch point need to be defined very early and clearly. So it's not the question whom to be blamed. It's really the call to action, work together very early and bring the demands clearly on the plate to get them discussed and adapt the procedures according to everybody's demand. Obviously, we need to have compromises, but we need to talk about how can we have a lean team, how can we implement lean processes. There's so much doubled work out there because people have not understood that my colleague needs the same and then this department is running the same procedure again or the same documentation again, and that's waste of time and waste of resources and slowing down.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I also heard you said not putting down the right processes in place is going to create issues. And this is a chain reaction that would create delays. And delays is equal to cost, budget, money.
Yeah.
Who is feeling the pain the most? I know you said you don't want finger pointing. When the budget is over bloated, is it the clinical operations that is feeling the pain the most? Or is it the clinical development team? Or is it the C-level? Like who is feeling the pain the most?
I would say we all feel the pain from different perspective. Okay. And the answer depends a bit on the structure and the org chart of a company, right? So the one who is responsible for the clinical trial budget is feeling the most pain. This, in my world, should be the clinical project manager, but I'm really consulting for a strong clinical operations team. But sometimes it's somebody else. And obviously, the C-level has a very tough job to talk to the investors, right? In small biotech companies, you have a stock-based company, you need to please the investors, and they also feel a lot of pain from a different angle. Is it less? Is it more? It's different, right? So I think it's with the pain, you are also never alone.
I had a guest come on the show, and she mentioned that a way that small biotechs or generally big pharma or pharma, anybody is trying to deal with the issue of delay cost, they are going towards technology. Now, I would like to ask you, from your experience you've had over a decade, like 18 years of experience, you've seen the evolution of clinical systems.
Yeah.
Walk me through.
Well, my first clinical trial was having a paper CRF. So coming back to the point, I'm old. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think I'm a true believer in innovations. So you might have seen I became AI officer, so I'm definitely into digital tools. I think that the first evolution was really from paper to electronic environments anyway, but we transferred the paper-based processes many times into an electronic process without reconfiguring the process to have it digitalized, truly digitalized. You know, it's really, I worked in a company where we had electronic signature, but a paper TMF. So we signed electronically to get the DocuSign document package printed. You know, that's ridiculous. Obviously, this has changed meanwhile. But this is really a nice example to see that you take a paper-based process and just digitalize what you have created by paper instead of thinking about digital workflows, right? And these days, we must talk about artificial intelligence. Without digitalization, you don't need to start with that aspect, right? And here I do have a strong opinion. If sponsor organizations are not starting to use AI, they will lose competitiveness completely, and we will not see them any longer in 2 to 5 years.
You believe that?
I believe that. They will shut down.
Really?
Yeah.
The regulatory, are they at the same pace with AI regulation? Is there like an existing AI regulation that can help them stay within the process?
Yes.
Really?
And it's from the small sponsor perspective, even worse, regulators are using AI already.
Oh.
They have started to use an AI framework, like FDA is using ELSA to review the submission documents. They are starting to use AI for inspection purposes. No hiding possible. And we have seen the first inspection findings related to AI.
Really?
Yeah. So I would say at least US and Europe, they are ahead of small sponsor organizations. I know Big Pharma is working on it. They are also developing into this area. But the small sponsor organizations with a very lean team, maybe without the competence and clarity what they need to do now, they will not compete any longer. Yeah. So digitalization plays a crucial role. For me, that's the basis for AI, and this is a must.
Yeah, which of the clinical systems, in your opinion, would have the most effectiveness if AI is embedded on it? EDC, eCOA, IRT, which of them? Yeah,
first of all the data acquisition tools. You mentioned eCRF, ePro, eCOA. These will have a massive effect. We see agents going out as CRAs, doing automatic source data verification. We do see AI is helping in SIA reconciliation and query management.
Really?
With the electronic patient records becoming more or less reality in Germany, and thinking globally, there are countries running a true electronic health record system. AI can help you in transferring the data into the eCRF. You know, so it's decreasing the patient burden, decreasing the site burden, but also decreasing the sponsor burden. But it will have a massive impact on the CROs, because this is a service no longer being asked for in future.
To the CROs.
as of now. In future, honestly, and I can only recommend small organizations to think about how to use AI. And I make the statement about myself. Since almost 3 years now, I have my own business journey as a consultant and trainer. I'm consulting in clinical operations. 60% you can cover with artificial intelligence these days, right? People will not come to me any longer. How can I help them? That's why I became manager for applied AI transformation. Now I'm switching my angle and helping companies. How can you use AI? How can you implement AI? That's why I became AI officer, because this position is bringing the AI governance into the company. So I'm switching my angle. Yes, I do have expertise in clinical operations. But I think the innovation for the future, and with future I mean the next years, is really bringing AI on board in a regulated, proper, adequate way.
Who do you think, especially in the small biotechs, that should be convinced? Because I still see a lot of bias in adopting clinical systems. Now we are even bringing in AI, and sometimes I see this bias of, we don't want to get into it, maybe because we don't know too much about it. Who do you think we need to focus and convince, and what should they hear to get convinced?
Well, obviously, starting with the chief executive officer, right? To have the right mindset. And you're pretty early talking to the chief financial officer. And then we talk about costs and return of investments. As of now, this might be just assumptions before we get the true case studies where we can calculate return of investments. The issue here is really in small companies, you are not tracking the processes in a detail. You would need to calculate your return of investment. I can tell you I'm using AI anyway, right? So I'm digging into the AI tools since I became self-employed. I've conducted a training about how can we write clinical study protocols with AI, and we had no tools, right? It's really the regulatory requirement to ask the question, what is critical? What is the risk? How can we evaluate the risk? How can we mitigate the risk? How is the risk mitigation impacting the protocol design? And this is, well, you can use AI as a sparring partner, right? What we have done in a whole day workshop few years ago, we can do in a two-hour workshop with AI today, right? Meaning return of investment, you're freeing up 6 hours for maybe 5 to 10 people, maybe even senior people. But this is a calculation small sponsors usually don't do. To say, you get that salary, this is your hourly rate. If you sit in a meeting, this is costing me, right?
Of course.
So I still see the mindset, oh, you get your salary anyway. Okay, but you can use it in a smarter way.
Yes. So we talked about so many things, but right now I want to go straight into stories, because in Clinically Unscripted, we like stories to hear behind the scene moments that, of course, that has shaped who you are and how you work. So maybe I can ask you, what, from your experience, what digital tools have you kind of implemented that helped improve quality, obviously, but at the same time saved cost on the budget? Story.
Yes. Yeah, obviously I do have stories. Yes. That's a necessity when you work in that field. So one very prominent story I can tell is it's about digitalization, right? So imagine if you have some kind of white glove service for the clinical trial sites, and I'm always a fan of minimizing the site burden. It was our clinical trial assistant reviewing the ECF system, whether the data have been entered. And once they have been entered in the system, to prepare the budget table for the invoice. So it was manual work on a quarterly basis. And or you can imagine if you run later clinical trials, like phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials, you need to do it for more and more sites. So my CTAs were really annoyed by that boring administrative work, but it was a white glove service for the sites. And at some stage, we discussed whether we can digitalize this work. And you can. Actually, we have identified, we had an ECF system that was able to track whether the data have been entered and trigger the investigator payment once all the data have been entered.
Automatically.
Because I don't want to pay when a date of visit has been entered and the visit was triggered, because probably the data have not been captured. So I like that system. The trigger point was all the data have been entered, the forms have been complete. And then the trigger was going to an investigator management module. And it was so cool during the discussion with our finance colleagues. We even identified, hey, we don't need an invoice any longer, because the delivery was already confirmed by the ECF system, documented data for that visit. So we can go and change our mind, our payment strategy. We can go to credit notes instead of invoices. So the automation was very, from the beginning to the end, possible, right? So the ECF is triggering all data entered. We can go to the invoicing management tool. And this tool was preparing a credit note with all the deliverables coming from the ECF system. And since we had a purchase order system in place, we had an automatic process for payments. So the credit note was then triggering in the purchase order, the deliverables have been received. Financing is triggering the payment. And think about the site. They just get paid and informed, by the way, you have been paid by these patients and these visits you have documented. Done, right? So this is a story where you clearly see, and this is not about AI, it's only digitalization and automation, where you can at least save, I would say, 2 days per quarter for the clinical trial assistant for manual work, plus you have a high quality due to the automation. And I had amazing CTAs, but we are all humans. So you increase the quality and you increase the employee satisfaction, because it was such a boring administrative task. Nobody would do any longer, right? So this is one story giving you a case study where you can definitely decrease the money in the end. Yes, you need to pay for the system, but the overall, if you calculate that financial investment based on the whole clinical trial period, you have a return of investment that is positive.
You know, we've talked about how the small biotech companies do not think in this way. And I like that you mentioned how the payment of the software might look heavy in the beginning, but overall. And previously, you also talked about how almost nobody would sit down and calculate the cost on daily manual work that people are doing. And the small biotechs also do not believe they can own systems in-house. So that leads me to the next question. For a small biotech, where should they start? Which clinical system should they start thinking about once they are going to phase 1?
So I'm a fan of control. I think it's still a mindset issue, maybe a gap of competencies and experience, working experience in this field. I do have clients telling me, oh, my CRO is not allowing me to be in touch with the sites. Really? And I was surprised as well, saying, you are the sponsor, you are paying everything.
Supposed to be 100%, responsible.
You are the client when it comes to the CRO. The CRO can't allow or disapprove anything. So sorry, guys. you need to take action. It's your responsibility. If you look to GCP, the ultimate responsibility
But
lies with the
this type of
sponsor.
challenge is it not supposed to have been included in the contract, in the MSA or SOW in the beginning?
In best case.
Why is it even a discussion that the sponsor cannot have access to the
Well,
site?
sometimes it's feeling like the deaf is talking to the blind one.
Oh.
And this is exactly where, think about one of my clients. Jessica, we need to run a clinical trial. What do we need to do? They have been smart because they, at that early phase, they brought me in, right? And got the expertise because I do have a lot of working experience. And I said, okay, this is the action log. This is what we need to do now in this sequence. And this is how you should select a vendor, because you're not going out to the street asking, oh, are you able to work for me?
Can you do oncology trial? Come.
Well, but I've seen that, BD persons are talking to small biotechs during conferences, and for the next trial, they get the contract. For me, it's a fact-based decision-making, right? And I'm in contact with a lot of BD managers from CROs, and I truly like them. But I never worked with them because they were not able to fulfill what I was expecting during the process, right?
All the CROs.
Not all the CROs, some of the CROs. Well, actually, what I want to say is you need to check your partner, right? I'm always saying you're not going out for one evening, meeting somebody at the bar and getting engaged and marry that person the next day.
It's a process.
It's a process. And I think in the business context, and honestly, I'm working in early clinical trials with oncology, with cell and gene therapy. A phase 1 clinical trial for the CRO can make them 6 million. It's a very expensive project, right?
Really?
If you can save 10%, it makes a true difference, right? Yes. And this is where I believe you need to have a strong expertise at the sponsor side to have a good contracting in place. I do see that clients are not getting access to the SOPs, and then they got a lot of inspection findings because it was not in the contract, right? So I think it's all about the mindset and the experience of small biotechs, and you know what you know, but do they know what they don't know, right? And this is where the magic is happening. If they realize their gaps, they can bring external experts in, like me or somebody else, and in other functional areas as well. And this is where the magic is happening, where you can also create case studies and talk about digitalization, how you want to purchase systems, which benefits you can see, right? System. I had the feeling that I had some different strategies compared to other small biotechs when leading the clinical operations team. But I was really sitting down with the team, talking through all pros and cons. Let's take the ECF. Do we need our own URL, or should we use the CRO URL? Everything is possible. Everything can work. Everything has pros and cons, right? As I mentioned, I would love to keep control over my clinical trial because it's my baby, not the CRO's baby, right?
CRO has probably
for the CRO, I'm one
14,
of
1,400 more babies.
Indeed, right? But that's my personal mindset, that I want to have the critical aspects controlled by the sponsor. And there are a lot of benefits. So another story. We have decided to go for our own URL.
EDC or ECRF?
ECRF system. Okay. What does that mean? I need to ensure as a sponsor to develop my data management team that we are able, from the competence, from the knowledge, we are able to maintain this URL, right? So I got my data managers trained on the ECF system, and we were also going a step further, that our data managers have programmed the ECF system initially until the initial go live, and then handed over the live ECF system to the CRO for daily management.
Okay.
Meaning, whenever we had a protocol amendment, and you mentioned that small companies like protocol amendments, I can tell a different story about this one. We have been way more flexible because we had the knowledge about our own ECF system. We were able to use our own resources to update the ECF system when required. And we have been flexible because we had a team of data managers. In case of time pressure, we were able to say, hey, you from this clinical trial, help us in that clinical trial, and we can speed up, which is not possible with CROs.
Because you are
at least not always.
You are assigned a specific PM or a specific, if you have to be assigned a new person, that's a new budget.
Indeed. And you need to get somebody, right? There must be somebody available.
Yes.
So we have been way more flexible, and we can control as a sponsor the system. Taking another story into the context now, full outsourcing model, URL with a CRO, ECF built with a CRO. And I was asking for something because I was aware I was using that system since ages before. So I had direct contact with the EDC provider. I used that system since 10 years at that stage. So I knew the system in
and out.
In a certain detail from the clinical operations perspective, because I was heavily involved in reviewing the specifications, performing the UETs, etc. And I asked for something I was 100% sure the system was able to do.
To do it.
Right? But the CRO told me this is not possible with this system. In the end, I contacted the EDC provider. So, hey guys, get in touch with them, by the way, to keep control. And we discussed, they confirmed I'm right. And it popped up that the change I asked the CRO to do was something where all the standard queries were triggered by. So for them, they would have had the consequence that they needed to update all the queries, almost all the standard queries, because I pulled the floor from them, right? But they were not transparent to me, telling me only at the end. And then I said, okay, it's not so important, then leave it in if that's the consequence. But initially, they told me the system is not able to do so, right? So they were simply lying, right?
Do you think it makes a lot more sense for fully outsourced small biotechs to maintain a direct relationship with the technology vendors just because of some stories like this?
Yes. Honestly, next story, we were in the process to select a CRO, and we asked for certain ECF reports. So I always add that to the request for proposal, that it's clear what I need to do to get for this clinical trial. And they put money into the budget. And while being in direct contact with the EDC provider, I knew it was a...
That was out of box.
PEEP standard report. Yes. But the CRO asks for payment. Honestly, it was a 20K payment.
Jeez.
Right? So better know about the system while being in direct contact with the system provider instead of 100% relying on
the CROs, because this is the major topic that we should, because sometimes when they are small, they feel like let the CRO handle everything and I only come in when I have to supervise, not oversight. Because I think
Obviously,
what most of them are doing now is just supervising, not oversighting.
Well, often they hire junior people. That's a different financial topic, right? Small companies are under financial pressure.
Yeah.
We touch the investors, right? You get a certain fund and you try to get as much as possible out of this fund, right? So they might have a cash flow of 6 months, in best case up to 18 months, but not longer. Usually for small companies, the clinical trial is not fully funded when they get
When
started,
they get
right?
started. Oh.
So there is a huge financial pressure.
Mm.
What does that mean? I have almost 20 years working experience. Obviously, I'm more expensive than somebody who is developing from a CRA to a project manager.
Obviously.
Obviously.
There are certain things you don't learn in school.
But from the company perspective, having a certain amount and budget constraints, they hire this person because they
Learn on the
say,
job.
oh, you can develop into a project manager,
Learn on YouTube.
but they haven't done the job before, right? And this is where you can truly have an impact. You have seen the issues. And this is what I learned while being in the small company environment since 15 years now. I'm no longer stressed when an issue arises because I've seen the issue
You've seen
before.
it before.
And I've seen option A, B, C.
And
I've
seen how they
seen
played
option
out.
D is not working. A is so la la. We should go for B because
B.
this was the one working the best. A junior person
Would jump.
would panic, you know, and this is why experienced consultants are more expensive.
There was an argument on LinkedIn recently. We were talking about it behind the scene. When should the small biotech bring in a consultant, and what should be the balance? Because they still need the CROs. They still need the CROs because a consultant alone cannot deliver a full-scale phase 1 alone. You need the CROs. But what do you give to the consultants? When do you bring them in, and when do you what do you own in-house as a sponsor? What do you outsource to the consultants, and how much do you rely on the CRO? What is the balance that you would recommend from your experience being inside as a sponsor and now a consultant?
Yeah. So definitely you have a certain amount of outsourcing required. My recommendation is whenever you think about a clinical trial, get some consultants in, right? And it depends on the company who is already on board as an internal resource, right? Because either you bring them in very early as an internal resource, that's perfectly fine and working well and cheaper, or you bring an external consultant like me in, more expensive, but you don't have internal headcount. It's just for me, the mindset whether I want to build internal headcount or be more flexible. You know, you get rid of an external consultant like me very fast, right?
Faster than
and that's okay because that's the way
nature of
it is,
the-
right? That's the
yeah.
business model. Think about it when you think planning a clinical trial. Think about at least a medical consultant, a biostatistician consultant, a clinical operations consultant very early. Why? You should start the GCP work when designing your clinical trial. And if it comes to my personal recommendation, how to outsource, the first question is, what is critical for me in this project? And this can be, for the same project, can be different for different companies, because here we are considering the company structure, the vision, the mission, the tactic, the mindset. So different aspects, risk-taking mindset, right? So you need to define what is per GCP, what is a critical process, what are critical data, what are critical documentation I need to create for this clinical trial. My personal advice is keep control over everything that is critical. Whatever is not critical, it's can get outsourced to a CRO. This would be the ideal scenario for me, and then reality is crashing, right? Because we talked about budget constraints, mindsets, etc., right?
And how many people to convince?
Yeah, it's not just a clinical trial, right? We are investigating non-commercial products in human beings. It can't be just a clinical trial. But to have the design right and get the processes into the company in a smart way, in a compliant way, invest time and money early on in bringing internal or external expertise in. The external consultants you can get rid of once the setup is done, right? But then you have a robust basis for the junior people. They have robust processes they can follow because somebody with the experience has written the process, right? That's why I have started to write SOPs and prepare templates.
I was going to ask you, for people that would like to start developing some of these processes internally, where they could access such like a template where they could follow or learn from. I was going to ask that. I'm glad you're already talking about it.
Yeah, so actually you would need to read all the guidelines by yourself to get an understanding what is required. And then, and I think this is coming with working experience, how can you translate the regulatory requirements into a practical process?
Document.
And yes, we need to install a lot of processes. When you ask me when is the best time to bring external consultants in, my personal recommendation would be very, very early. When you start thinking about a clinical trial, think about a medical consultant, a QA consultant, biostatistics, and clinical operations.
Yeah.
Because they will help you evaluating your clinical trial design and improving it in a good way.
To reduce protocol amendments.
Indeed, to reduce protocol amendments and issues later on, because especially clinical operations, if you have somebody experienced, they will guide you through the risk management process. And risk management can have an impact on the design again. That's why very early. If you are a company, even without a GCP framework installed, because my main clients, they have managed the GMP world and they are planning their very, very first clinical trial. So they do have a quality management system. They do have GMP SOPs, but all GCP related SOPs, they don't have, right? So they can bring somebody like me in to help them writing the SOP framework for a clinical trial, creating templates. And, you know, I was asked by one of my chief medical officer I was reporting to, Jessica, can't we just buy it? And I said, I'm not aware. And now being my own business, I said, well, I'm starting doing that now. So I'm preparing SOPs. I'm preparing templates, even pre-filled templates with content. So
companies can buy and adopt.
Indeed, this is my vision I'm currently working on. I'm running the Clinical Excellence Training Academy. That's an online learning management tool, a platform. And this is really, my vision is it's like Amazon. You create an account, you go in, click, click, click. These SOPs are the ones I require, or even only I do have an SOP, but I need a proper template, or get a pre-filled sponsor oversight plan, a pre-filled project management plan, a pre-filled, I'm currently working on a risk log. So it's really like Amazon. You go in, you put it into your cart, and you just buy it. And you have it, you can download it immediately, right? Obviously, you need to put credit card infos in. So it's for a good reason, but you can, my vision is I'm currently working on a whole SOP package, the minimal SOPs you need as a small company when running a full outsourcing concept. This means risk management, vendor selection, vendor qualification, sponsor oversight, these facets. I'm thinking AI in addition, right? So I will also prepare an AI policy, etc. And then when it comes to vendor selection, what needs an AI vendor to bring in that I can select this kind of vendor? And this is something I'm working on. So it's really like Amazon, go in, put everything into the cart. And if you need to adapt it to your company, then get in touch. This is my consulting, right? I can help you adapting it to your company if required, because this is something, it's written in a more or less generic way.
So anybody can. With
placeholders, examples, proposals. But this is a work I can't do without knowing the company, right?
Yeah.
But you have the framework immediately, with, right? Get 10 SOPs in one day, and then you start with draft version 1, right?
Nice. So we've had lots of interesting conversations, and I believe I've learned a lot already, and I'm sure a lot of people that will listen to this episode would learn from what you said. As we wrap up, what are those skills or things you believe a clinical operations leader should pick up right now as part of their experience to be able to succeed as a clinical operations leader? Maybe they are currently a CRA or PMs and they are looking forward to becoming a clinical operations leader. What are those skills or experiences that you believe you recommend they pick up early that will help them succeed?
You would be surprised. Communication, conflict management, change management.
Really?
Guys, go for it.
Really?
Because this is the underlying soft skill set you need to manage a project, because managing projects means working with people.
The ones you like and the ones you don't like.
Skills, projects, people. What is this question about? No, I think you need to have a robust skill set, a soft skill set, because it's human to human interactions, right? And especially with small companies, we discussed that point. You are always understaffed, in time pressure. You need to hurry. Maybe you have gaps in knowledge, but need to do the things still, right? So you are working in a very high pressure environment. Resilience, right? And then having a structured approach. So as a clinical project manager, for me, proper project management skills plays also a crucial
Very
role,
important.
right? Moderating meetings. I was always the bad guy, like, come on, guys, side discussion, stick to the agenda, 10 minutes left. We need a decision. It's a bad guy job, but somebody needs to do it, right? To catch the people and get back to the agenda, to have a positive outcome of the meeting and make the meeting productive. Because it can get very emotional when you work under pressure. And this is why I'm emphasizing and underlining those soft skills.
I hear that. I met someone, maybe the person was from the CRO side, and I asked him, "Are you enjoying your job as a clinical project manager?" He said, "No."
Oh, I like it. I like exactly this high pressure situation where you can have a massive impact in a positive way.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, well, Jessica, as always, thank you very much for joining me on this podcast. And I really appreciate the time that you've spent to share your knowledge and your experience with us today. And if you would like to get in touch with Jessica, she's on LinkedIn. I will tag her in the BTS that I will post then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was
Look
nice.
for
Thank
my
you very
name
much.
to find me.
Thank you very much. And bye-bye.